So in the previous video, I was showing how to assign materials to separate objects, but there are times where this is not flexible enough, and there are so many objects in your scene that you want a better way to change the material or the look of each object separately. So this example demonstrates that. So if I activate recording action feed and I bypass this box, so now we can see the scene in full, and those are the nodes that create all those objects. You don't need more nodes than that, even though we have 100 spheres and they each have different properties. That said, there is only those nodes. If we do a dive inside, we're going to discover some new more. But so, and if I move my camera down, we can see that this is a big area light shining on all objects. So what we have here is, if we start by looking at that node, and if I offset this, so we can see that we have spheres duplicated using a copy to point, which is a variation of the copy node I was showing last time, which basically duplicates an object using a transform. And here we are duplicating objects on the points of the other input. So here we have a plane. If I press Ctrl W, not Ctrl S. Oh, interesting, Ctrl W does not work. On here, of course, it doesn't work in the browser, so I'll have to fix that. But so I can use display wireframe all, and you can see that this plane comes with multiple segments, which I could lower or increase, and each sphere is going to be instantiated on the points of each of those triangles. So if I was to change, I probably want to now display no wireframe. If I want to change the number of points on the plane, I get more or less spheres. So we have about 100 spheres. We have exactly 100 spheres. And how do we assign a different material to each so that some are more shiny than others, without having to create 100 of material nodes? That would be very cumbersome, and this is not how we want to do it. So how does that work? So you just need those two nodes and a few more inside. This is really just the area light. So if I was to remove that, it's all black because we don't have a light. So what happens here is, in the copy node, we are copying attributes from the plane to the sphere. So if we're going to copy the UV. The UV is what we are going to use in the material. So we copy the UV to each object. So the plane has UV going from 0 to 1 in that direction, 0 to 1 in that direction, or maybe the opposite, I don't know. But it goes from 0 to 1 in both axes, X and Z, and that is transferred to the sphere. So if I was to look at the spreadsheet, you can see that we have the UV values, and now if I look at the spreadsheet for the copy to point and I go on the object, I can see the UVs are present and there is different value for each sphere. So what I do here is, on that node, I transfer the UV. So from here we have the UV on the object, here it's gone from the object and it's gone to the point of the spheres. And here, and then I assign a material. So here, if I was to display that, and I can, if I bypass this, we don't have anything that changed. And if I bypass that, we can see that the material is assigned, and basically the material will be the one using the UVs that are there. So I should probably show you what the material does now. I go inside here, we have a mesh builder, which is before we had the mesh basic, which only had a color. And the difference here, you can see you have this icon on the left, which may change at some point. But this icon, whatever look it has, show that you can go inside the node. And so if I select it and I press W, I go inside and I discover the nodes that make up this material. So what I see here, and if I was to disconnect it, then everything would be white. What I see here is that we have a lighting model that feeds the node, that feeds the color. So if I was to disconnect the input, each sphere would be the same, but I can change the metalness of each of them, or the roughness. I can set no roughness, and you can now recognize some of the looks that they had when everything was plugged in. And I basically use the UVs that are on the points of the sphere to drive the metallic and the roughness. I said metalness, metallic and roughness. And so when we have metallic, we can see that we go from not metallic to very metallic using the X of the UV. Or if I unplug this, we can see that we have the Y of the roughness going from 0 to 1, driving so not rough at all to very rough, where the lighting is going to be more diffuse, and then you can have both together. So now you have this material changing along the UVs of the plane. That's pretty much all you need to know on how to have point attributes that you can change, and that will drive your material. So you have each object having a different material. Another tool that is useful to use is instead of looking at a spreadsheet where you have a list of numbers, which is very intimidating and sometimes not exactly a visual way to think about things, is we have the attribute display node, which is useful to see the UVs, so I can have a sense of what, if I look at the plane and I display that. So by default it doesn't have anything because it's set to density. That default may change, but if I set it to UVs and to vector 2, then I can see that the UVs are changing on the plane. Now if I plug the sphere into that, I can see that the UVs on the sphere. I can, by the way, press F to did I forget to press that? No, it is pressing, but I don't see F. I'll have to look at that. I don't see F. I was expecting to see the notification of what I pressed here. I can see the UVs of the sphere, but that will look different once I see it after having copied to the point. So once right after there, it is the same thing, because the UVs has been copied to the object level, not to the point level. But when I take this, then I will see the same UVs as what the plane has. Again, if I go from here to here, you can see that we go from black to red and black to green, and it is the same thing. So basically I've copied the UVs of the plane to the spheres. And this is what we'll use, what the material we would use. Why is that black now? It's black now probably because the material is messing up with the attribute display, which again is another bug I can look at. But yes, so this example should show you how to control point attributes and how to have those point attributes feed into a material so you can change the look of objects.